I bought my home for the peace. After a lifetime in loud apartments, neighbors, fighting, music, thumping through paper-thin walls. Someone always vacuuming at midnight craved quiet. My cul-de-sac looked perfect, tree-lined, calm. The kind of place where nothing dramatic ever happened, or so I thought. I had no idea that within weeks, stillness I loved would be hijacked by a spoiled teenager and his even more entitled mother, who would push me so far that I'd end up watching a luxury Porsche being crushed into a metal cube with the greatest satisfaction of my life. The first time I saw the car, I honestly assumed I was mistaken. A gleaming silver Porsche brand, new, spotless, smelling of money even from a distance, was parked smack in the middle of my driveway. I had just stepped outside with coffee in hand, robe still tied loosely, expecting the usual routine. Instead, a stranger's luxury sports car blocked my garage entirely, like it belonged there. I stared at it for several seconds, trying to make sense of the sight. Had someone broken down? Was I being pranked? Tella, the universe misdelivered a millionaire. 10 minutes later, a young man strolled down the sidewalk, earbuds in, sunglasses on, the casual arrogance of someone who had never been told no in his life. He clicked the Porsche key fob, pulled the door open, and sat inside without even acknowledging me. When I stepped forward and tried to get his attention, his only explanation was, "Yeah, it's mine. My mom says your driveway is closer to the bus stop." Then he revved the engine and sped off like he had done me a favor. His name was Trevor. I learned that later, though Prince of Entitlement suited him better. The next morning, he parked there again, and the next, and then again, every single day of the week. It became routine for him. Arrive at dawn, leave his Porsche in my driveway, walk to the bus, and return in the afternoon to retrieve it. To him, my home was nothing more than a free parking garage. By day 4, I'd had enough. I confronted him again. He shrugged, brushed me off, and made it clear his mother said I wouldn't mind. So I walked next door, knocked, and met the woman herself, Karen, not just in behavior, in name. Her floral robe, her prim curlers, her condescending smilet, all felt like a sitcom stereotype come to life. "Oh, that," she said dismissively when I explained the issue. "Yes, I told him you wouldn't mind. He needs somewhere close to the bus stop. You have a big driveway. It's really not a big deal." It absolutely was. And I told her that, firmly, but she waved me away like my objections were a child's tantrum. "Let's not make this dramatic," she chirped. I walked away, boiling. The following week, the Porsche kept appearing. When I tried calling towing companies, they refused. "Private property dispute," they said. "Civil matter. No tow without police clearance." The HOA wouldn't intervene either. Trevor became bolder, even parking deeper in my driveway, as if claiming territory. The breaking point came when I had to leave early one morning for work. I opened my garage to find the Porsche practically kissing the door. I couldn't back out without hitting it. I honked for 10 minutes. No response. I knocked on their door for 15 more. No answer. Finally, Trevor stumbled out, half asleep, and complained that I had woken him too early. That morning, something inside me hardened, not frustration, but a quiet resolve. These people were not going to stop. They would escalate forever because they genuinely believed they were entitled to my property. So instead of getting angrier, I began to think, strategize, plan. Then fate handed me the perfect setup. A city utility truck pulled onto our street one morning, and workers installed a bright new traffic sign at the end of the cul-de-sac. No street parking. Weekdays, 7 a.m., 12 p.m. I hadn't requested it, and neither had the neighbors. There was only one person in the whole street petty enough to demand such a restriction. Karen. She had likely complained about commuters parking too close to her home. And the city obliging, as always, proved it. I almost laughed when I realized what it meant. If Trevor couldn't park on the street and wasn't allowed to block my driveway, where could he park? Certainly not on my property. Now, legally, his Porsche counted as a trespassing vehicle, not a neighbor dispute, not a misunderstanding, a trespass. The next morning, Trevor arrived, saw the new sign, swore under his breath, and then unbelievably announced, "Guess I'll have to keep using your driveway." He walked off without another thought, leaving the Porsche glittering in the sun like a beautifully wrapped gift waiting for me to unwrap. You to see us, you, we are Enad. You, we, My plan became crystal clear. That afternoon, I drove to a scrapyard owned by an old friend, Benny. We worked construction together years ago before he opened his recycling and crushing facility. Benny was loud, crude, and absolutely loyal when someone needed help. After hearing the entire situation, he slapped his knee, laughing. "You want the tow truck?" he asked. "Fine, but keep it legal," and I assured him it would be. The next morning, Trevor parked his Porsche in my driveway, right on schedule, at 7:02 a.m. I waited until he turned the corner toward the bus stop. Then I pulled out the tow truck Benny had lent me and backed it toward the Porsche. That was Karen's cue to explode. She stormed across her lawn in slippers and a satin robe, screeching like a banshee. "You stay away from my son's car. I'll call the police." "Please do," I said, holding out printouts of the law. I explained calmly and plainly. This was private property. Her son had been warned repeatedly, and because she had requested the street restriction, his car now counted as unlawful trespassing. I even informed her that I'd spoken with the police department the day before, who told me I had full authority to remove it at his cost. For the first time, her confidence wavered. She tried yelling, threatening lawsuits, calling me names, but the law didn't bend for tantrums. I hooked the Porsche and lifted it. She shrieked louder. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains. I pulled out of the cul-de-sac while she chased the tow truck on foot until her slippers nearly fell off. It was the most cardio she had done in years. At the scrapyard, Benny greeted me with a wicked grin. We positioned the Porsche beneath the industrial crusher. The machine roared awake, echoing through the steel stacks. I watched the sleek, polished curves of the sports car, this symbol of arrogance, entitlement, and disrespect, sit helplessly under the massive steel plate. Benny asked, "Want the honors?" I nodded. He pulled the lever. The crusher descended slowly at first, then with unstoppable force. The Porsche screamed, metal twisting, glass shattering, aluminum folding like cheap foil. In seconds, the luxury vehicle became a deformed, groaning mess. In a minute, it was a compact cube of crushed metal. All the arrogance Trevor had wrapped around himself had just been flattened into something that could fit inside a wheelbarrow. Benny lowered the cube in front of me. It felt poetic. Justice forged by hydraulic pressure. We documented the entire process, legal, clean, proper. Then I notified the police non-emergency line, explaining the situation and providing evidence of trespass. They confirmed everything I did was lawful. If the owner calls, the officer said, "We'll direct them to resolve it civilly with you." Beautiful. I returned home, parked in my now empty driveway, and stepped out of the tow truck. Seconds later, Karen burst outside like she had been lurking behind her door, waiting to ambush me. "Where's my son's car?" she screamed, voice cracking. I handed her an invoice for towing and crushing her, hefty, some near $8,000, said calmly, "Removed from my property." "As the law allows, you crushed it," she shrieked. "I did," I replied. "Next time, teach your son basic respect for other people's property." She stood frozen, trembling with rage and disbelief. Minutes later, Trevor returned from the bus stop, earbuds still in, clueless. When he saw the empty driveway, he stared blankly. "Where's my Porsche?" his mother sputtered uselessly. I answered for her, "Disposed of legally. After you trespassed repeatedly." The look on his face, shock melting into disbelief, was priceless. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. For once in his life, he was speechless. From that day on, They never spoke to me again. They never parked near my home again. They never even looked in my direction. That invoice, which they eventually paid after a failed attorney threat, ensured silence for months. And the peace I bought my house for finally returned. Sometimes peace is earned. Sometimes it is fought for. And sometimes, apparently, it requires watching a spoiled teenager's Porsche get crushed into a block of scrap metal. Either way, it was the quietest morning I'd had since moving in.